Let me tell you about this incredible guy named Jake, a true backyard genius who turned a rusty old bicycle into something straight out of a DIY dream. Picture this. Jake, pedaling away on his bike one day, gets this wild idea to build a crane. Not just any crane, mind you, but one that can hoist motorcycles weighing hundreds of pounds like it's no big deal. And the best part? His neighbors were totally blown away, shouting, "Man, that's awesome," when they saw it in action. Jake's process was as simple as it was brilliant. He started with 2 steel pipes, one long, about 5 feet, and one short, cut down to about 4 feet, accounting for the thickness of a couple of bearings. He grabbed his trusty angle grinder, sketched 2 parallel lines along that short pipe, and sliced away the section in between. With a little elbow grease and some electric scaling, he shaved down the short pipe's diameter just enough to slide it snugly into the longer one. Smart, right? Next up, bearings. Jake turned an old electric scale into a makeshift bearing mount. Talk about resourceful. He pressed a bearing into one end of the pipe, then squeezed another into the opposite end until it sat flush with the rim. Boom! That steel pipe was now spinning smoothly around a central axis, ready to become the heart of his crane. For the drum, the part that wins the rope, Jake got creative with a bicycle chain disc. He measured it out, grabbed a steel plate, and traced 2 circles, cutting them into perfect 10-inch discs with his grinder. In the center of each, he drilled a hole just big enough for a roller to fit through, then welded the whole setup together, 2 discs sandwiching a roller. After smoothing out the welds, he bolted the chain discs 4 holes tight with nuts, and added a gear on one side for extra oomph. This guy's attention to detail, off the charts. Now to tie it all together, Jake measured the distance between his 2 rotating axes, about 18 inches, and cut 2 trapezoidal steel plates to match. He drilled holes for the shafts, welded an extra plate across the bottom, and shaped it into a sturdy, box-like frame. The main structure was done, but Jake wasn't finished yet. He polished everything up, trimmed the gears into a jagged barbed shape for grip, and locked them onto the shaft with bolts. That little 3-inch tweak, it was the final piece that made this beast unstoppable. When it was time to test, Jake hooked up a rope, mounted the crane on a solid base, and gave it a go. First up, an air compressor, lifted it like it was a feather. Then, the real challenge, a 400-pound motorcycle, effortless. The guy had built a lifting machine that could handle hundreds of pounds with nothing but pedal power and ingenuity. So how would I rate Jake's chain disc crane? I'd give it a solid 10 out of 10. It's not just the craftsmanship, though that's top-notch. It's the sheer creativity and grit that make it amazing. This isn't some fancy factory rig. It's a homegrown marvel born from a bike and a vision. Jake's a legend in my book, and if you saw this thing in action, you'd be cheering right alongside his neighbors. What do you think? Could you pull off something this cool?